You're not supposed to stick it up there that deep.
How else are you going to stuff a turkey? Oh, wait, are we live?
Welcome, everyone. My name is Amos Joseph. I'm joined by my co-host, Brook Potter, who's in the UK. This is a 10K Rum Podcast. How's it going, Brook?
Happy birthday, Amos. Happy
What?
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. I'm not jumping on a cake and I'm not wearing a bikini for you. So,
God damn it.
Just now we got that out of the way. I'm doing well. The question is, how are you doing? And are you going to tell the audience how old you are today?
Maybe. No.
Maybe.
27.
Good on you, man. Yeah, 27 was a good year. Yes.
Sound like a wine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, as you know, we men tend to age like fine wine. So yes, our value increases. So yeah, 27 was a good year. That's awesome. How does it feel?
No different. Not too much different. Had a little birthday get together yesterday with my siblings and my grandfather, and then that was about it. I mean, there wasn't much really going on for the birthday.
Strippers? No.
What's that? No, no strippers.
No strippers.
No craziness. Not
Any
really.
blow?
Actually, no. Unfortunately, not.
No, not even some mushrooms.
No. I mean, just it wasn't quite. I mean, I was definitely like wanting to kind of, do some stuff, I guess, but
indulge in something if it were possible.
Yeah, something like that, but
something legal, of course, because we wouldn't want our listeners to think we're encouraging drug use.
Of course not. We're not.
Of course not. No, definitely not.
What are you talking about? This drug use?
Exactly, Amos. What are you talking about? But I'm glad to hear it. Do you have any other birthday plans? Are you meeting up with anybody else in the state or anything like that?
No, not really. I know. I mean, most of the stuff was pretty much just this weekend and yesterday and whatnot. It's strange, getting old.
So do you have like a New Year's resolution? Like, what do you hope to accomplish for your 27th year? Do you have a plan?
Well, I mean, technically, it's my 28th year.
Right. Yes, I understand how that works, but
I know here I'm getting into technicals. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I know. I kind of had a little chat with you yesterday. We talked about kind of the different goals that I have.
Yes.
Don't want to get into that too much. At least not until things are a lot more on track.
Right. So you don't want the listeners to hold you accountable as of yet.
No.
Is this a Joey NPC moment? Are we doing this?
No. See, there's like two different ways you can go about like setting goals like that, especially if you're someone with somewhat of an audience. Either you kind of start talking about goals, start talking about things, and there is the aspect of, okay, your audience, the people who follow you, they're going to keep you accountable. But on the other hand, I always kind of like think kind of boasting about goals tends to kind of set you back in a way where you get the feeling like there can be kind of like a reverse effect, I think, where you
feel pressured and then you give up kind of thing.
Yeah. And then versus if you don't tell as many people, like, so as I tell you, I tell some friends and family, then it's like, okay, go ahead and do it. Then you're more like, I'm going to do it. And once things are kind of going and I've got the pace set, the whatever habits need to be in place for this to go on, then it's like, okay, I've been doing this for the past 6 months or whatever it is, things are on track and this and that. And people go, oh, great. then there's like a continuation. Then there's like then there's the added accountability. Okay, now we go to the next level of like, people know I already have a track record. It's not just, oh, he's just saying that, I mean, Joey, our friend Joey NPC from Glorious House of Games podcasts, he was just like 6 months gonna lose 50 pounds and be show ready, and we're like, whoa. Like,
yeah, he was going on stage. Arnold, was it the IFBB classic physique, which is I mean, yeah, anybody who's like relatively thin, spends a couple days in the gym, you can get a classic physique. Like, it's the surfer boy look.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's disappointed a couple people. Have you seen his latest post on this, where he says in a couple more months he's going to start charging people for his nudes because he's going to look so good?
Oh God.
He's gonna do like an only fans thing on the Patreon.
Oh, I did hear, though, on the recent episode, he's talking about signing up for a show in March.
Yes.
You hear about this?
Yes. Yeah.
So you listen to both parts of the Las Vegas.
I've heard both parts of the Las Vegas weekend. Jesus Christ, that's crazy.
And there's so much we don't know.
Yes. Seems for some reason a lot of trannies come up in these conversations about Vegas, It seems to be a thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they keep denying it like it's not a thing.
So I mean, that is the $1 million question, Amos. If you got like a blowjob from somebody and you found out that they were a tranny, does that affect anything?
Two parts to that answer.
It's never straightforward, is it?
Exactly. So, I mean, the first part would be like, the initial response that I'll probably put out there is just kind of like, oh crap, like, just like, crazy things that happen and whatever. But then the second part will be like, well, but if you think like realistically, and you just think, obviously, I mean, if I was like, drunk, or let's just say under certain influences and whatever, really crazy.
Having a lot of Coca-Cola.
Exactly.
Yes.
Rum and Cokes.
Rum and Cokes, yes. That shit'll kill you. Yeah. I can talk from experience. I died many times.
So you're kind of in that place, and then the next thing you know, like, oh, something happened, and this person looked like a woman, probably felt like a woman, and all the things depending upon what you did. If it's just a blowjob, then it's like a mouth is a mouth, and people can do all sorts of things.
Sure.
And so I'd be kind of like, could have been worse.
Could have been worse. I suppose.
Could have been.
It's an interesting question. It seems to be coming up more and more these days. I don't know why. People have a very sick fetish.
Well, it's not really that. I don't think it's just mainly people. I think it's more and more that are out there, and the surgeries and the transitions are starting to look more and more convincing.
Oh, I mean, I don't think they're just convincing. I think they're exceptional. I think one of the Miss Worlds or the Miss Universe or one of those, maybe Latin America, it was a Brazilian transvestite that won like the Miss whatever, like full body conversion, right? Including chopping off the dick and turning it inside out. And I made the comment like, well, yeah, this just proves that men are better at being, at everything, including being women, so that's how good it is that like beauty contest winners are trans, right?
I mean, you sometimes can like, I mean, even just if you want to say like, us common folk, I'll be scrolling through like a dating app and I'm just like swipe.
Yeah.
And then some of the apps you can like go back and see who you swiped and whatever. And I'm like swiping away and I'm looking, okay, do I message this person? Do I message that person? And then I'll kind of like, wait, this doesn't look right.
Oh, dude.
And so you have these dating profiles where like they don't list that. So they're like, they'll have like the labels they can like select in the actual like profile itself, but then so they'll say they're like, woman, but then in their like bio somewhere at the very bottom, I'm a trans woman, and I'm like, right. You know.
Well, this is the thing. It's not gay men are not into trans, right? Like, we have a mutual friend who happens to be gay, and I actually bridged this topic with him. You know, he says he likes, you know, tits, and he likes, you know, girls, and he even likes Asian girls. So I would have just assumed, well, he should just go to fucking Thailand and get a ladyboy. That'd kind of like be the best of both worlds, right? You know, you got the feminine on top, and this, and he was so not into that, which is very weird. Like, if you look at trans porn, it's always on a straight website. Like, I'm on, you know, whatever website I'm on, and I see videos coming up where, you know, with trans, and there are like gay sections in these porn things. You could go to a gay division. Right. But apparently it's not gay men, because they're attracted to the masculine appearance, right? Mm-hmm. So that feminine mix, kind of dick girl kind of thing going on. I mean, apparently that's a fetish for straight people.
Right. It's like, yeah, there's a, you know, it's like if you want, it's like this. If I told someone like, you know, I like apples and I like pears. Like, yes. Oh, okay. And then years down the road, someone's like, you know, scientists created the papple or the pear or whatever you want to call it. Yes. A fuse between the two. And then they offer that to people who like apples and pears. Well, I don't like that.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't go down right. Yeah, I understand the point. It's a very bizarre thing. I mean, I've made the comment before that, you know, relations between men and women in the West are so bad that men are leaving the West to go to Asia to fuck ladyboys in the ass. So there is something where the men actually feel like they want the feminine, but they feel that, well, as we know, men are the true romantics in that sense. Like, men, you know, actually tend to be the ones who really fall in love unconditionally and do all these other types of things.
Right.
So I think I could understand the appeal of men leaving the West and going on and getting these lady boys and you know, whatever. I mean, the one tell apparently is even if they've done like the works, right? They've you know, turned their dick inside out and all that kind of stuff, right? They can't get wet like a vagina.
Obviously,
like actual vagina, they can't get wet. So,
however,
what they do is they go in the bathroom and they kind of slap some water on it, kind of thing.
Or as a way to keep the wound from closing.
Yes,
they have to lubricate it.
Right. Yeah, that's what they do. That's part of it.
That's another whole nother thing. It's
man, but we got some interesting trans stories.
We don't.
No. I think I got away in Thailand. I think I came close, but I think I dodged a couple bullets literally in Thailand. Possibly a blowjob, but I don't think maybe.
I mean, you remember the first time we went to Thailand, we definitely had some interesting encounters. I mean, it was just meeting people. We didn't have any, so we were men of God on this trip.
Yes, exactly.
Boy. Now let's turn. I just thought of something you were bringing up when you talked about kind of the men are the romantics and such, and we might as well just turn this completely 180 to let's just say a more wholesome conversation.
We gone from trannies to the holy book to holy writ.
I want your thoughts on something, and
sure.
Since
we're on the topic.
So you know, we talk about the with the red pill, you kind of understand the differences between how love is expressed between men and women. Yes. Like, so men tend to love a certain way, women tend to love a different way. You know, ours, the way we select the mate is very different. So do you think that ties into now, regardless of what people believe and all this, I'm just talking about it strictly from like kind of like how Jordan Peterson analyzes Christianity and the different archetypes of stuff.
Sure.
Do you think the whole thing with like love and grace and unconditional love comes from a masculine sort of symbolism?
I mean, I don't think that women are not incapable of unconditional love, because
True.
they have that with their kids, definitely with their kids. They don't always have that with their husbands. It's a different dynamic. Right. So I don't necessarily say that, yeah, unconditional love is strictly a masculine archetype. I mean, obviously it's expressed that way.
Obviously not strictly, but I mean that it's primarily.
Well, men's love tends to be more sacrificial, right? Like men will die for pussy, right? Woman would not die for dick, right? Just straight up, right? Wars have been started over brides and women and just carnage. Men will do that for love and sex and all these other types of things.
Right.
Women, not so much. Women are not gonna kill themselves for dick. That's just not going to happen. So in that respect, yeah, there's definitely a difference in terms of what love would drive a person to do. Now, again, that doesn't mean like a mother would sacrifice herself for her kids, right? I'm not saying that women don't have sacrificial love, right? That's still a thing. But if we're talking very broadly, very generally, men have a different expression, and it's sacrificial. Women, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, they say it's kind of opportunistic love sometimes. What was it? Beaufort's law? What is it? I can't remember what it's called. Where you get affection and love as long as you have utility, sort of thing. I can't remember what it's called. But even that, there's exceptions, and we discussed that last week. Your dad, my dad, where that clearly was not the case. They actually was just like general, just love, right? So,
right.
It's not clear. But if we were to just do stereotypes, I think, yes, men and women love differently. I think there's a compatibility in how they come together.
Yeah,
that's about as best as I can do.
Yeah, no, because I actually had a conversation with some people after we had that little chat last week about like addressing the whole thing with Jordan Peterson and his wife and all that, and realizing that, like, maybe just loves his wife. Maybe she just loves him, and then there's all the stuff that happens, and I mean, that's, as we said, that's a whole realm that the red pill kind of hasn't explored into. Like, it's become so popular, but we don't have a lot of good examples of like long-term relationships lasting years, decades, let alone marriages lasting that long. It's usually like a small handful. So like if I looked into just all of the connections I have directly or indirectly in like the red pill, the manosphere, I can only really give you like 2 people that I know of that are married. The rest are in LTRs, spinning plates or something,
or divorced.
Yeah, and I can tell you that's a few dozen people out of a few dozen, maybe, and there's 2.
Yeah, out of a few dozen like prominent speakers in the manosphere and the red pill community, 2 out of all of them are actually married.
Right. Now, is Ryan Stone married? And he's considered in a way.
I think he is, isn't he?
Common law, I think he said.
Okay.
So it counts in it kind of, but it's not official, I guess. I don't know exactly how he's not, he's not spinning plates. He's with the woman he's with, and they've been together for over a decade now.
Yeah.
But it's like you have all this, so they haven't really explored much beyond that. And
I agree.
And a lot of the stuff that even these guys, like Roller or Ryan Stone, are giving out is mainly to it's still like primarily to guys that are just trying to get out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be their biggest market, is men who, frustrated men who haven't, got a lot of action. They're kind of, sitting on their ass. They really need to get up, get going, do the work, start improving their life. Those are the hardest people. Like you and me, we're kind of already on the trend, right? You know, we've got the knowledge, we're sharing the information, we're working on ourselves, we're working on our lives. There's not much more they can offer us, right? Apart from interesting talking points once in a while. That's kind of it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, like, stuff to listen to.
Crystal says she's a romantic at heart, so.
Some videos here about the shitty relationship and then the true love stories. Yeah, Crystal. Unfortunately, so we got Crystal in the chat. Unfortunately, the things about the true love stories is that, yeah, they do happen, but not as much as they used to.
Probably not.
Probably not as much. Thanks to things like feminism and just even the unfortunate side effects of technology and everything, a lot of the romance and stuff that's out there has turned into something else, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, even just think like romance from 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, you know, I remember watching movies where, like, if a guy, you know, we call it stalking now, but if a guy like, oh yeah, I mean, and it's just our customs have changed. But if a guy like followed a girl to places she went to, like, try to make himself like visible to her, to, like, you know, I care and I want to, like, be with you. Stalking now, you know, what are you doing? I mean, me personally, and I'll share this, in middle school and high school, and then even, you know, and nowadays, like, I'm the kind of person that tends to be very observant, and the perception of that is very different. So I'll give you an example. I was in middle school. There was this girl that I had a crush on, and tried talking to her. Still just, you know,
was she a redhead?
No, actually not. She wasn't.
No. Oh,
I didn't have any crushes on redheads in high school.
Were there just no redheads in high school?
There were just not. It was actually mostly blonde. It was actually mostly blonde, surprisingly.
Yeah, it's not uncommon.
And so little things I did. I mean, if I would just notice something, I was just the kind of guy I was observant. So one time, basically, so I was in sports, and then we have practice. So after practice, everyone kind of congregates in this atrium that's the main entrance of the school. All for most sports, you know, the girls' sports, the boys' sports are out there, and, you know, I'm waiting to get picked up. And so I see this girl. She's also in sports. She kind of walked by and walked out, and the guys are like, "Oh, you know, you like her and stuff." And I'm just, yeah, you know. And they said, and then some other guys came up and they said, "Oh, you know, they're asking me about it." And I said, "Well, you know, I think this and this and this." And I'm just, as I'm talking, I'm observing my surroundings, and I see her get into a car and leave. And they're like, "Oh, like, did she, is she still, like, you know, still getting changed in the locker room, whatever? Like, did you say hi to her?" And I said, "Oh no, she just got in the car and left, like, just a minute ago." And guys were like, "You saw that?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Stalker, huh?" And I'm like, "What? What do you mean? Like, where's?"
I mean, it's not quite stalking if it's out in public where everyone can see it, you know.
But just that observant thing, it came across, and that was not the only time. There have been times that just, she went
really?
Yeah, I mean, just being in it's, but it's also like, it's just a lot of weird things around that. And basically, you know, and again, like I said, you had a time when it's like, you know, if you tried to find this person, you know, and even like if you're on Facebook and you added certain people, and then you, like, went through their Facebook, because, you know, people call it Facebook stalking.
Yes.
You know, it's like, "Oh yeah, you know, she was at a vacation this week or something."
But is it stalking if it's out in public? I bring that up again.
Your logic is sound, but the perception doesn't matter.
Thank you, Spock.
It's the perception. It's the perception that's out there.
It's true.
Exactly.
It's true.
It's the perception of that. So romance has completely changed now. It's like, and then we also talk about, of course, if you're perceived as the creepy guy, even in the slightest, anything you do has ulterior motives.
Right. Okay, well, in that respect, I have a question.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so there's a girl that lives in the Abbey where I'm at. Mm-hmm. Right now, I happen to know where she lives for reasons I will not divulge on this podcast.
Stalker.
No, it's different to that. But the problem is, she lives in somewhere that I frequent. Like every time I go to the gym, I have to walk past her house.
You're stalking her outside of her house.
No, I'm not. I think she might be looking out for me, but that's a whole other story, right? But she's like, essentially, if you're living in a town and you're kind of in the town square, and I have to pass through the town square very often. That's kind of the thing. She's accused me of stalking her simply because, like, I'm going to the grocery store and I have to pass her house to get to the grocery store, or I'm coming back from the gym 7:00 in the morning. I have to pass her house, to get back from the gym, right? So it's different in that respect, because I'm it's not like I'm standing outside her house or like looking for her or anything like that. It's a little different.
But think about this. There was a time when if you were outside her house, depending upon what you're doing, but if you were there,
like if I'm standing in the street jerking my dick off outside her house, I'm sure that would be an issue.
Of course. But like you've seen, the whole, like, if you're outside and you've got an old, cassette player.
The Cusack, wasn't it?
Yeah. Or you approached her house to sneak out or something.
Right.
Granted, that's a little bit of an adolescent type of thing, but you had these things that people did to kind of like showing like pursuit of one another.
Right
now, I mean, granted, I'm probably maybe I'm thinking too much, but like someone could say like, so why do you really go to that specific supermarket? Couldn't you go to another one the other way?
No. Well, I mean, I could, but I'd have to go twice as far and carry the groceries twice as long. And I'm walking there, so I have to carry everything. So it wouldn't really I could do it. Yeah, hell yeah, I could do it. But why would I want to?
Like,
and there's no way back from the gym, so I have to pass that way.
It's two ways too. Some guys who think about such things might be like, oh, maybe I'm creeping her out. Maybe I should go somewhere else.
Right.
But I mean,
I think she likes the attention.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know that, but
and you see, I'm good looking, so I don't think she considers it stalking.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just the whole perception of like what is romantic and what isn't has like further and further skewed. I mean, you can just there used actually, surprisingly, you probably had like in some instances of dates, you probably had more, the romantic was probably a little bit more perceived as egalitarian, wouldn't you say?
What do you mean? I'm not sure.
Like now now men have to be like more dominating or alpha in general to like be
I don't know if that's more egalitarian. I think it skews the scales even more.
No. The scales now have to be skewed more, where men have to be more alpha in order to succeed in the marketplace.
Right.
Whereas if you look in like, the romance that is perceived in like earlier movies in the previous decades, it's very much kind of like, very open, and it's like, we're just going out, we're hanging out, what do you want to get, what do you want to eat, like what are we doing, like it was like there was more of a shared experience rather than it's like, now being the man, you have to kind of like run the date, so to speak.
I'm not sure what you'd be basing that off of. I mean, if you want to talk about the Hollywood romantic archetypes like The Notebook and these other types of films.
Oh no, that's just blue pill fantasies.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly
I'm saying further back, like 50s and 60s movies.
Okay, well, I wasn't around in the 50s or the 60s. I know I look old, but I'm not that old.
Have you seen older movies though?
Right. I mean, there was always like the Casablanca with Rick, who seduces the spy's wife, and the Humphrey Bogart was he was the man back then. Streetcar Named Desire, Marlon Brando with Stella, he was a Neanderthal. The man was a fucking thug. And he rapes one of the girls because she's just an emotional wreck, and what she needs is like a good pounding. I mean, they've always James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause. They've always had the archetype of those like I guess it's alpha males, but it was the smooth, unruffleable, like just solid guys. And we had that back in the 50s and the 60s. So I don't know if it's entirely safe to say that.
Right. Okay.
I think maybe to your point, the alphas we've always had alphas. Maybe the betas have I mean, they have their mating strategies as well. And obviously back in the 50s and 60s, they didn't have the information that we have now.
Right.
So yeah, you might, but at the same time, the women were not as closed off. They'd probably be more receptive to those advances back then.
I mean, would you say, and it's not that I'm like, yearning for a time as then, but
you don't want to go back to the 50s?
I mean, it would be nice, but I mean, I'm not like looking at, because it'd be easier. It's like, would you say though would you agree that maybe like some degree of purple pill was a lot more accepted and even like had more success?
Oh yeah, of course. I think in modern history, I don't think that was true in much later history, because we know that a lot of men just died off. They never got married and stuff like that. So I think, yes, it's always been bad. Women have always been selective. It has gotten worse since the sexual revolution, advent of feminism, birth control, abortion rights, all faultless marriage, faultless divorce and stuff like that. All of these things have really skewed the scale. And that's kind of in the 60s. The 60s is kind of the beginning of that with the pill. And you no longer had to have sex for kids. You could have sex for pleasure, that kind of thing.
And really just looking at it, I'd say it's, the perception is those things themselves were problematic. I think it's the incentives they bring about is the problem.
Correct. It's not that any of those things are particularly
it's like
bad.
Yeah, it's like, what? So people, well, what do you got against welfare? You hate poor people? No, I don't hate poor people. I think welfare is a great idea. It's the incentives that welfare bring about that is the problem. Well, if welfare incentivizes, performing less as a contributing citizen, contributing member of society, whatever you want to call it.
No, you're exactly right. The single mom thing, the 70s, the housing projects, and a lot of that stuff where basically the state replaced the role of the father for a lot of women.
Yeah. No fault divorce incentivizes divorce.
Well, it makes it easier. And I think the financial protections that go to the woman is what the incentive is. So if you don't need a reason to leave and you get to leave with all the money and the prizes, that's the issue.
But I'm saying objectively though, like whatever makes something incentively like less of an incentive to stay away from, incentivizes the opposite.
Right. But as I say, there were positive incentives for being divorced and getting half the man's stuff.
Right. That's why I'm saying it's like no fault divorce incentivized getting a divorce.
Sure. I mean, it has its downfalls as well, because if a woman wanted a divorce, she was actually incentivized to say the guy like raped her or abused her.
And yeah, I mean, I was watching, I was listening to a Jordan Peterson interview. He was on some like a Norwegian TV show, and surprisingly not being interrupted, not being, interjected as much.
So what you're saying is
that only came up once.
Okay.
But they're all like, they were just, you could see like, it was like, it's not a debate or an interview. Like Peterson was pretty much teaching the whole class. Okay. Like he's sitting there just talking about all the studies on. So he talks about like, he pointed to like, your egalitarian policies have actually created further disparities in terms of social behaviors.
Right.
Like if you try, what is it? He said, the more you try to create an egalitarian state, the more you will actually have a bigger disparity between showing in the differences between like the decisions between the sexes actually become more further and further apart. Like those differences are more polarized, more amplified in those differences. Yes. He talked about the studies and he talked about like the evidence and all this stuff that, he's not actually making any like ideological claims. He's just like,
this is what the study shows. Yeah.
And they're like, well, how could you say that? I just read the evidence. Like,
right, exactly. This is what the study has shown, right?
And so people started asking about his views on, because he got caught in this whole conversation about marriage.
Right.
Basically where he's saying like, divorce has all these problems. And he says,
yes.
He goes, I'm not saying like, he's like, I'm not diminishing that like divorce like shouldn't happen. And like, there's not like horrible people out there in bad relationships. True. But people like, he goes, if we care so much about children, then divorce is a bad thing for them.
Yes.
People shouldn't divorce because of the children. Granted, people do that and it actually does more harm than good. But he says there also should be an understanding that having kids and all this stuff, like, so he starts breaking down like the nuances, it's just the older a child is, it's going to be easier for them to handle a divorce and all this stuff.
Yeah.
What was funny was one of the panelists started actually, after they moved past the subject of divorce, like 15 minutes after, one of the panelists brought it back to that. And a bunch of comments in the video were like, this guy is seriously considering divorce. Why is he asking so many questions about this?
Right.
He was straight up asking, how would you handle talking to your kids about divorce?
That's a very specific question. Sure.
You're like, and then you just notice it because Peterson's making a lot of sense with like, divorce is like, divorce has a negative effect on kids and people should understand that. And obviously since kids are the future,
it helps to nurture them as long as possible. Yeah. Makes sense. So, I mean, that is the only reason truly to get married is if you want kids. It is still the best environment to raise kids with a mom and a dad.
Right.
But as you and I both know, it's very risky, especially out in the West.
Yeah. I had to kind of walk through people too. When you hear equality, there's a lot of context of equality.
Yes.
There's equality of opportunity is one thing, but then, if you want to talk like true equality, I think what was it? Like there's a difference. I had a discussion and they were talking about how like, there's always been like equality. And I said, well, no, there's like, we haven't really had equality, like social equality.
Right.
Until like the last like few decades.
Right. What do you mean by social equality?
Where as a society, we agree that all men and women are created with equal access to opportunities.
Right. Okay. So like a classical liberal philosophy.
Right. We haven't really had that for
equal. Okay.
Right. Where like, a woman can have just as much access to becoming what a man can be. Granted access, it's not the outcome part.
Sure. I get that.
Whereas if you want to talk like, where's the difference between that and what we were talking about, like distinguishing between natural equality, which is nature, basically.
Right.
Where people basically, like we have, without the social customs in place, you have equal access to really do anything. Like basically true access, because if a woman wanted to do something, regardless of the law, or a man wants to do something regardless of the law, he can probably do it.
Sure.
So like,
which is why we have criminals.
True, right? But looking more, so because someone was trying to argue, well, there's always been like equality. I'm like, well, not social equality.
That's a tough one. I understand the point you're making. I would make that distinction that in the eyes of the law, that probably has not always been the case. And I think now we've achieved to some degree equality before the law. I think we'll always have social, like when I hear social equality, I'm thinking amongst people, and there'll always be separations amongst people, rich and poor, black and white,
right? Okay,
nationalities and stuff. So I yes, legal immigrant versus illegal immigrants and stuff. But before the eyes of the law, yeah, I think there is equality. It should be blind. Every creed and race find an equal place, as the motto in Trinidad.
So this person is a Canadian that I was talking to, and he was really trying to play up, Canada's really like fixed this like whole race problem, and like unlike America. And I'm like, yeah, First Nation. And he goes, oh yeah. So for the listeners, First Nation is the term they use for Native Americans, and the problem with them in their country is their history of basically like segregating them to different schools, different like places and stuff doesn't go too that far back. It goes to like the 60s.
Yeah.
It's still within the generation in some ways. So they're sitting here like, Black people and Asian people, we all get along just fine. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, the plantations couldn't grow that far north. So yeah.
And then he tried to see, I've got this friend, he's a white guy, and he lives in like the northeast, way up north in this small town, and he fell in love with a native girl. I'm like, okay, 80% of your population lives within 100 miles of the border. He's in a small town. He fell in love with her because of options. Yeah, not because of granted, you will make your options available where you can, but it's like,
yes,
you got to understand the environment he's in. If you're in a place where you're the only white guy and you say, racism is solved because the white guy married a native, it's like, what? That's not how that works. Like, good for him.
That's anyway. Let's not shit on the Canadians. They have enough problems. They have Justin Trudeau.
Well, I mean, he shit on himself.
He does shit on himself all the time, But yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of pompousness with these Canadians where they kind of think they're a little bit superior.
Well, and I tried explaining it to him, and I'm like, well, trying to help him understand like inherent, like people call it implicit bias and all this stuff,
but it's like in-group preference.
But it's just in-group preference, and he talked about he said, well, I went to this family function, and there's a lot where we tend to be a very diverse workplace. But I went to like a Christmas party, and it was just white people. White people sat with each other, black people sat with each other, the Asians sat with each other, the Indians sat with each other. Mm-hmm. He goes, so I just felt, I would like go around and like intermingle. I said, yeah, you did that.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody else felt the need to do that.
I'm like, you and I are, quote unquote, aware or woke. I said, we are part
progressive.
We are part of the 20%.
Yeah.
They are the rest of the 80% that are following in-group preference. It's not that they're racist. It's not that they hate those groups.
Yeah, they're all in the same place.
I said, so maybe you guys have solved like certain problems surrounding race, but you cannot.
What problems is he claiming they've solved in Canada?
They just don't have as much like, like crime in cities as we do.
Right. That's not a race. Is he? I mean, that's a very racist statement. But he's basically saying that the crime in the U.S. is because of black people.
Here, the race card is thrown around a lot more than it is up in Canada.
Yes, because you all have more money at stake. There's big business in race baiting in the United States. There's no business doing that in Canada.
True. So, so Granted, I'm walking through all this stuff with him, like to help him understand, like you can spout off all day about how great you are as guys are, but you cannot deny the fact that like people still have in-group preferences.
Correct.
Like, you're gonna walk into a room and you're gonna see people split off. And it's not like oh my gosh, everyone's racist. It's what happens. It said 80% of your friends are still marrying within their own race.
Not in my case.
Granted, you and I are very engaged in people who are very like multicultural.
Right. Well,
but most of my world, though.
Right. Yeah. So I get the point, and I agree with your point. I was just noticing how many of my friends tend to be of African and East Indian descent marrying white women. But that's a whole other story.
That was because in the Caribbean you get a lot of these intersections of different groups.
Well, it's usually when they leave the Caribbean, they come over to the UK or whatever. They're seen as exotic and other things.
And you're also in the UK, which is diversity haven.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of progressive ideology out here. If you want to show how progressive you are, you have a black boyfriend. That's kind of the thing. See how much of a not racist I am. I let him put his dick in me, kind of thing. No, that's a thing. That's actually a thing. But don't get me started on the Scandinavians. But that's a whole other story.
But I mean,
yeah.
Oh, geez. Conk in the chat. How's it going, Conk? Now, real quick before we get into anything else, I know we're kind of halfway through the show now. Tonight at 8:00 Central Time, I'm gonna do like a kind of a more, I don't know, would you call it potpourri? No, not potpourri. What's the term? Just kind of like just
a mashup.
Mashup of like anyone that wants to come on. It's I'll start it off just me. I think we've got Chris from Think Liberty. Remember him? We had him early on. He wants to hop on. We got Crystal in the chat. She was probably gonna hop on. I don't know if Shane and Nico are gonna hop on. They said they might because they got stuff going on. But I just put an open invitation out to people. They can message me on either Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. I talk on all those, and just if anyone wants to come on, just it's a little bit of an ego thing. It's my birthday, come on my stream. But I do want to like have like conversations with people, and it'll be interesting to kind of see like our different guests that we've had in the past to come on, maybe have like a cross conversation about different things.
Sounds good.
Maybe like
I will be sleeping.
Yeah,
that's very late for me, but yeah, I hope you guys have a great time.
Yeah. So yeah, if anyone's like here now and they're wondering why I'm not having anyone else on, it's because I'm doing that later. Brooke and I are having a regular show today, this morning, my time, and then I'll do like another one later on. That one, probably not going to put on a podcast because that's going to get really confusing for people.
Right. You do it on your other channel.
No, we're doing it in this channel, but it's just going to be just.
Oh, you're right. You're not going to add it to the podcast.
Right, I'm not going to rip it and like do that. Forget 3 or 4 hours.
Awesome.
Kind of just like a hangout thing. But it's just so try to explain that, Aldom, and then like I think most people can agree. It's like, and it's funny. You get these like groups like social justice warriors. You get hipsters, whatever, that are all like screaming integration and racism all day, and they live in a white neighborhood.
Oh, don't get me started on the hypocrisy of the progressive.
No, we could talk that to death. We've talked about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Most of them are.
You should have an understanding of in-group preferences while also understanding like, while having your progressive views that like, it's totally fine that people want to intermarry. It's totally fine that people want to, that's probably a step beyond helping people understand gender differences. Yes. Like the more open and egalitarian, like policies you'll have, the more people are free to make their decisions, and more likely you're actually going to observe people make basically in-group preferences in regards to being a man or woman.
Sure.
The whole thing with, bunch of lawyers are going to be men, bunch of nurses are going to be women, childcare providers are going to be primarily women, construction, manual labor is going to be primarily men.
Sure. Yeah, that's probably not gonna change anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking just like, the whole, like, the only reason any of that will change is like somehow humanity literally rewrote its own DNA to make us purely like egalitarian. Like we were just kind of the whole one race, one gender. And I was like, that's some like crazy sci-fi stuff, but that's like the only way you would work around that.
Yeah, but even then, we will find a division. I mean, have you ever watched this show called Invader Zim? It's a 90s cartoon that was on
I think
Nickelodeon.
They're trying to bring it back, I think.
Possibly. I think they just put out a movie of it on Netflix.
I mean, South Park did something too with basically
before let me just finish the Zim point. The Zim point is they're all the same alien race and they all look identical, but they discriminate by height. So the leaders are the tallest, right? And it's a play on yes, even within racial groups that are similar, right? You can look at certain tribes in Africa, even Native American history and stuff like that. Even though they're within the same ethnic racial makeup, they still found divisions, right? And that's why, in Native American tribes hunted each other, the African tribes hunted each other, the Mongolians and the Chinese, and we find lines of division. And unfortunately, it's because for thousands and thousands of years, that's how we survived. We've always survived hunter gathering and trying to run from an enemy, and there always needs to be a psychological other, and we'll make shit up to create that paradigm,
Yeah, and really, even nowadays, among the most woke, it's still, you can still see it still happens.
Yes.
Now, what I was going to get at is South Park did an episode where
the workers from the future were coming back.
No. Someone went to the future. What is it? Let me look this up quick.
Was this the one where Cartman froze himself for the Nintendo Wii?
I think it was. Yeah. So, he froze himself for the Nintendo Wii, but ended up making it like way too far into the future.
Yeah.
So he comes to a future where basically so he says, Jesus Christ, or he says, oh my God. And they kind of look at him like, what'd you say? And then they make fun of him. He's one of those people that believes in a supernatural, non-existent deity. Like, that's their insult back then.
Right.
And so they give him the Wii, and it doesn't work. Obviously, the Wii
connected to the television or whatever.
Because it's been, the Wii's been around for basically millennia.
Yeah.
But in this future, basically humans and other humans, the entire planet is atheist.
Yes.
But they are divided by how they should be labeled.
Yes.
Are we the atheist union? Are we the the American atheists of whatever? Are we the, United Atheist Front? Just all these like atheist labels, and they all went to war.
Yes.
As to how the name should be.
Yes. It's a very profound episode, if you really think about it, but they're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah, I mean, they're pointing out, it could be anything. Like if we, if the entire planet turned to one religion somehow, they could do the same thing. Like within religions, you have in-group preference in that way. You have even within. Then you have different kinds of atheists, different kinds of agnostics. There's a whole scale of belief, sort of the belief in denial of faith kind of thing. There's a whole scale of it. Like you have your full blown like theist, like Christian, all the way to atheist. There's like a whole spectrum of that, and people will.
I agree
that way too. So,
I mean, I'll put it to you this way: in Latin America, for instance. Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia, these places and stuff like that. They're all Latin American, right? So they're all Latin appearance. but they discriminate on how dark or light your skin is, and if your eyes are light or dark.
Black people do that here too.
Yeah, so there's what we call shadeism, right? So you have different levels of dark in terms of your complexion. The Indians do it as well, right? The East Indians, shadeism, right? I mean, Jane Elliott's blue eye experiment. I don't know if you ever saw that. That was a thing with the kids.
Okay.
Where she basically divided up the kids between the blue eyes and the brown eyes. And she started to push the idea that the blue eyes were superior. And if you see the results in the classroom, it's actually quite disturbing, but completely made up, just absolute, horseshit.
Just saying it sounds a little shady.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of YouTube videos about it and stuff. But this is it. Even if it's not race, it's going to be something else. And this is what the progressives don't understand. The top down attempt to get rid of discrimination it's never going to work, because you drive people to the extremes and other types of things. Social integration happens from the bottom up. So yeah, as I say, there were a lot of people back in the 1960s in the United States that really came on board with the civil rights movement, and they hated to see how the black people were being treated in the South and other things like that, and the Jim Crow laws and whatever. And that kind of thing was already kind of falling apart long before they even put in like the anti-discrimination laws and the Civil Rights Act and all this other kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Society's changed, and it's just like today. There's certain words. I mean, you guys don't say the word retard, right? Apparently, I can't say that in the UK either, because that's like really offensive. But I mean, in Trinidad, fuck, you're a fucking retard. I mean, we say that all the time, right?
What? We say that. We just. I
mean, you probably don't say it on a podcast, but
Well, you just did. No, I was gonna say like, wait. I mean, well, okay, you and I would say it, but
yeah, because and that's the whole thing, is that your society has to be on board with those changes, and that's how it happens. It's the same way we've outlawed certain words, the N-word and other things. Mm-hmm. That's not top down. That's just socially, it just became unacceptable.
Wait, you guys outlawed the N-word?
No, I mean the progressive push right now is to outlaw the N-word, and you can't say that. You could only say that if you're black, and that's why iDubbbz gets so much shit, because he says it all the time. But
the hard R.
But that is how you change society, from the people. The people are educated, and they think, this is not a word that we really want to associate with. But the top-down approach, government approach, trying to force people into good behavior, it's not a thing.
Yeah. I'm just going to conk in the chat here, but saying the act of being woke in itself is a division of humanity, basically SJW narcissism.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. When I use, I guess I want to be clear, because I mean, people know, like conk would know, but I'm just saying is like, when I use it, I'm just kind of like, when I say, woke, so for the listeners too, I always do it with a little quotation mark fingers kind of thing, just to kind of like, because I consider just like being aware of things. I think you can be that regardless of political affiliation or, identification. Just, you kind of see things, you understand things, and
you're red-pilled.
Yeah, but that red pill has so many, like, I mean, we understand red pill as like intersexual dynamics, kind of an understanding of certain realities in like the world, but red pill gets associated with like alt-right and race realism and like the more hardline elements of those beliefs,
Sure. And
well, I mean, I'll come across someone and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in the red pill community. Oh, so am I. I'm like, I think we're talking about different things here.
Yeah, red pill, as it could mean intersectional dynamics, coined by Royce Roosh, right. And what's the other R? Can't remember. But Royce, yeah, it all
and
Rollo, of course. But yeah, it could mean anybody who. But this is how it's in a broader sense. Anybody who's come to some kind of truth that isn't kind of orthodox in modern society.
Yeah, but I mean, anti-Semitism is somehow based in some red pill idea, and it's like, wait, hold on,
Right. So I mean, it's not based in a red pill idea. it's the whole Jewish conspiracy and all that kind of stuff, which is counter what is generally accepted. So that would be, yes, a red. I don't know much about it, but you've come to a different understanding than what's orthodoxy. They'll call that a red pill experience. I wouldn't say that's red pill knowledge. I'd just say they've been red pilled in that respect.
Because that's an unfortunate thing with that word. It's like so many words get thrown around. I could really get into that because let's just say this last weekend definitely had some conflicts of just definitions of words, and people are close to me. Anyways, I already talked to Brook about this. Words and definitions get thrown out all around the place, and people can get really clingy to these things. Kind of saying nutrition red pill, but what is nutrition red pill? Is it because nutrition red pill could be veganism, keto, paleo, Mediterranean diet, carnivore diet, juicing, not juicing, breatharianism, which is nonsense.
Yes.
The nutrition of not eating and believing air is your energy source.
Pulling energy from the air and the sun, like
sun gazing, grounding.
I think there might be something to grounding.
Drinking your own piss.
Yeah, that's usually like last stage veganism. You end up drinking your own piss.
Oh god,
because it's supposed to be an antibiotic or some shit.
Stage 4 veganism.
It's like stage 4 veganism. You start drinking your own piss. Yeah, it's a fucking disease.
and then you got politics red pill. Is that ANCAP, ANCOM? Is that because you get your ANCAPs, you get your ANCOMs, but then you get your people that basically have the understanding that freedom has all these costs. Freedom actually gives people too much, so people actually can still hurt each other and hurt themselves. So we need the red pill of all of mankind needs to be controlled. So, complete fascism or complete communism. And it's whoa. All, the basically the corners of the political quadrants become red pill on their own. It's what? How? You get, then you get intersexual dynamics. So you get the red pill of people think it's a red pill when you're basically so the TradCon fantasy becomes a red pill in some ways because people think, oh, we need to go back how things were. And then there's the red pill who actually calls themselves the red pill, who is understanding the world we're in, the realities that are in place, and how to better function in that.
Yeah.
Religion red pill. What do you do with that?
Exactly.
Full-blown atheist or full-blown Christian,
agnostic, who knows?
You and I kind of had a bit of a red pill in religious theology too.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, look, there's all this stuff that we didn't know about theology. Oh, the Bible's not supposed to be like this. The church is not supposed to be like this. A red pill in a way.
Yeah.
But then we had our own divisions within that. So, what is it? The root of all that mainstream doesn't work. Everyone needs to find out. Are we all conspiracy theory junkies, or really just actually pointed to defy MSM?
I mean, he's not wrong. I think the media definitely has a very large part to play in much of the zeitgeist of this generation, right?
Right.
A lot of the things that they've been taught to fear, like the whole global warming thing. Look, I'm not a global warming denier. I just don't necessarily think that, carbon dioxide, which makes up a small portion of the 0.04% of all greenhouse gases, which includes water vapor as the biggest source, is really the driving force behind this whole thing.
Real quick on that, I just saw an article that said, why are we so afraid about CO2 when greenhouses have literal CO2 generators in them?
Yeah. Why? Because it's plant food, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Right? And if anybody's interested, you look up global greening. And because of the higher content of CO2 in the atmosphere, the Earth has actually gotten greener. There's bigger, vast swaths of forest and jungle and grassland and stuff like that. And also the crop yields have been much bigger because the the pores of the leaves do not have to open as much to capture the CO2, so they retain more moisture and then they get bigger and all this other kind of stuff. So yeah, so I'm definitely not on, I could be convinced. Like I'm not dogmatic to say like, oh, it's definitely not the CO2.
Is that a red pill?
But this is it. It runs against orthodoxy. But where does the orthodoxy comes from? As Conk is rightly saying, that is purely mainstream media. It's all the fucking headlines in the newspaper about, an Al Gore's movie and fucking Hollywood and all the shit. That's where it comes from. You don't hear scientists. When was the last time you hear scientists step up and be like, well, this is what it is? No, it's always fucking politicians, actors, and activists. Mm-hmm. Right? And they always, the science is settled. Well, we're the fucking scientists to defend the position. They're none. Nobody's doing it.
Bill Nye is going to dress up as a real scientist for Halloween.
Right. Bill Nye, right? The actor from what was his show? I can't remember. Bill Nye, Science Guy.
Bill Nye, the Science Guy. No, yeah, Babylon Bee did an article saying Bill Nye will dress up as a real scientist for Halloween. I was like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty shit. And there's a lot of contrary evidence. And if you believe in the scientific method, and if you see contrary evidence to your theory that CO2 is the driving force of, the climate thing, and there is apparently some evidence to suggest that it's not, then your theory isn't sound. You go back to the drawing board and you come with another theory. But there's so much money and power invested in this theory, they can't let it go, even if they wanted to. And TW, I agree with you. The vegan propaganda, don't get me started. I try to fight that every goddamn day of my life.
One thing that Conk is saying, the common denominator is both sides think they're fighting. They're the minority fighting the man. Left fights the right, right fights the left. And then, don't get me started on centrists.
Radical centrists.
Have you seen some of the memes? So like basically people make memes about centrism. It's like, the Jews wanted no Jews to die, and Hitler wanted 6 million of them to die. So the centrist position is only kill 3 million of them. It's like, oh my God, like, basically, where it's like, well, you got this point here, but then you got that over there, and then they just.
I think it's called the middle of the road fallacy, where you basically think that the truth is somewhere in the middle on everything. It's basically the heart of British politics because nobody has the balls to take like a strong position.
Well, I mean,
it's bullshit.
You guys end up cooking to leftist ideas of,
they cut to the left,
confiscate butter knives.
Yeah, and we're about to raise the minimum wage out here. The conservative government is about to raise the minimum wage. Yeah. It's fascism light. It's communism light. Well, it's like socialism light.
Yeah. At the get-together, my family get-together, I picked up a butter knife and said, this is illegal in the UK.
Yeah. There's actually like the Church of England has come out basically saying that there's no reason to have a pointy knife. Like you should round all the pointy knives up to try and fight knife crime. And all knife ends should be, curved, sort of thing. I mean, obviously they've never been to prison because you could shiv somebody with pretty much anything with enough force, whether it's a sharp point or not. But yeah, they literally talking about seizing steak knives and all this other kind of shit. This is the state of the UK at the moment. I mean, it's a fucking laughing stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, hand in your knives. And you can't buy a knife at a kitchen store without being 18 years and over.
Parliament is sovereign.
Parliament is sovereign, and it's fucking retarded. That is what it is. I'd be careful. That might be illegal to say. The police might show up at my door at any minute,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, guys, don't give up your guns across there, man. That's all I could say.
Yeah. The cult of the child. That's the whole thing now too. I think. So what was it? I think Greta Thunberg said, you stole my childhood, and then it basically people showed like hundreds of pictures of like child soldiers, starving children in Africa.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And I love the fact that she's lecturing the United States. And I think they pull sanctions on countries like, I don't know, Germany, France, the US, some shit. when the top 5 polluters in the world start with China and end with China, right? It's like China, India, Russia, then maybe the United States, and all this other stuff. You don't see go and try that speech in mainland China. Like seriously, go and talk to Vladimir Putin.
She would disappear.
Right, she would make it, and that's why these people really don't care about what they're talking about. That's why it's all in the US, because that's the only place this shit makes money.
Well, and the whole thing that she's like completely being manipulated.
Obviously, no 16-year-old kid is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, she's giving this speech, and then they actually someone found the clip of her at a panel, same place, at a panel with other kids, and they asked her a question, and she goes, and she's no script, no practice, just kind of, like she talked just like a 16-year-old would. Just
she couldn't even remember the question. She's like, "What was the first question?" And I mean, she has Asperger's, so. I don't know if that's affecting her hearing or just her mental capacity.
Yeah, there's that, and basically people got in trouble because they like basically pointed out like she's a mentally ill child on TV.
Yeah.
Telling us what to do, and then like some people got in trouble for that, but it's like she actually admitted like she actually has this history of mental illness, and it's like, oh boy.
No, I mean, I hope in a couple of years she becomes a conservative and kind of ditches all of this bullshit, when she decides to rebel, hopefully, unless the vegan diet has completely destroyed her brain. But I mean, there's a whole series, if anybody's interested, on veganism as a mental illness. And they just take clips of vegans and basically kind of comment on all the stupid shit that they say. And basically, you're wasting away and your brain is malnourished. Yeah, pretty shit, man. I don't get it. I've never really, I think, yes, we must take care of the environment. Everybody wants clean air, clean water to drink without all the fluoride and the nanotech and all that other shit. But the perspective is completely wrong. People are looking around right now basically saying, oh, this is the worst it's ever been and whatever. My friend, if you were here in the 1900s in London, you showed up in London in the 1900s with the fucking smog from all of the factories and shit like that, you would look at, like, if you pulled somebody from the 1900s and brought them now, the first thing they would say is, oh my God, it's so clean. People have no idea what they're talking about.
It's clean. I think New York had, so people want to talk about like the automobile problem. So automobiles, emissions and all that. Okay, I'll agree. Yeah, emissions, all that bad. Air pollution, bad. But have you heard of New York City before the car was invented?
Yeah, with all the coal fire plants and everything else.
Manure in the streets.
Yeah. Sewage.
There was like someone actually had these figures on it. It's like literally hundreds of thousands of tons of horse shit.
Yeah.
In the streets.
Yeah. And they'd shovel it. Like, yeah, no, I completely agree. The methane, the smell, that shit got into the water. I mean,
you don't even know.
No context.
You don't even know what that stuff will do to your brain.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it, but
just ingest in like all the fumes in the air because that stuff sits and whatever. And
yeah, I think there's some videos of people actually shoveling the amount of like horse shit that was going through New York, in the streets and stuff like that. But yeah, no, this is what people don't understand. Everybody kind of has this impression that, if we didn't industrialize, the earth would be pristine and it would be nice and, Garden of Eden type living, right? That's not the way the fucking planet works, man. The planet is trying to fucking kill us, right? We got hurricanes, we got heat waves, we got snowstorms, blizzards. By our technology, and to be very fair, very heavily reliant on fossil fuels, we have tamed the planet. That's what we've done. Now, in places like Houston, Texas, where once upon a time you die of heat stroke outside, you can now go into a nice air-conditioned building, and the population in Texas is booming. Where before it would have been uninhabitable. Similarly, Canada, the Arctic, the Scandinavian countries, etc., etc., etc. The fucking cold is trying to kill you, and we push back on that by our technology. And this is again, when I hear a lot of these people talking about the Green New Deal and, we got to basically go back to caveman living. It's very anti-human because they don't understand, because of our advancements, we've actually been able to make human life and prosperity better against a hostile environment. And that's what they don't seem to understand. Yeah.
I'm just looking in the chat. Yeah, I'm looking in the chat right now. Some actress named Stacey Dash.
I don't know. Is it Stacey Dash?
Yeah, I'm looking her up. She's a actress.
Yeah, I know who she is. She's a black actress. She was in like Blue Sport or something like that. She had great tits back then. She has light eyes. Yeah.
Arrested for domestic battery.
Oh, brilliant. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. When did this happen?
Like now. Just today.
Right. She was in Clueless. Arrested for domestic violence. Oh,
I like so TMZ, in quotes, clueless star Stacey Dash, and I'm thinking, yeah, she's pretty clueless, it seems.
Oh my God, Kong, the Unabomber! Come on, man.
Oh, jeez.
So, for those who aren't familiar with the chat, Kong has just said he prefers the caveman days. He's with Ted Kaczynski, which was, for anybody who doesn't know, was the Unabomber. What was his thesis called? The decline of Western civilization from the technological advancement of something.
I remember actually. So Conk was on Masculine Geek. They had a conversation about like a lot of these people. It's like you get these guys that like they make a lot of sense in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, towards the end, they basically take some of their ideas to their logical end.
Yeah.
It's usually a bad thing. It's like...
Yeah. I mean, if we did live in caveman days, let's just be honest, most of the population wouldn't survive.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think you and I'll do all right. How's your axe throwing? Are you good at throwing axes?
Could learn. I mean, early on, I would probably be, I would be the type that would be more to like using my brain over bronze, but then I would like by necessity would probably really try to like really work on like the physical aspect.
Yeah. So if it all went to shit tomorrow, right? Like just total anarchy, the big one. End of the world apocalypse.
I got some steak knives.
Yeah. What's give me day one. What do you do day one of the big bang?
Ooh. I feel like this would be a good raw take.
Okay, you want to do it for the raw take?
We'll save it for the raw take. So for everyone who is listening right now, if you do enjoy the show and you're here in the chat and stuff, you're engaged, we do have
also like the video, guys.
Of course,
everybody in the chat.
Yes, we do have a subscribe star. Now subscribe star is very similar to Patreon. You can basically, it's a way you can pledge support to the show on a monthly basis. We have a $1, $5, $10, and $25 a month per tiers. The $5 a month basically gives you access to, usually I think on a monthly basis we'll put out anywhere between like 4 and 8 videos. We at least put one a week. Sometimes we might put 2 out a week. Of basically, it's like 20-minute clips, sometimes 40-minute, depending on the topic, of just Brooke and I like going in depth on maybe a certain topic, but also like we'll kind of flesh out some more things going on in our life, ideas we have that are probably a little more personal that would prefer like people who are a little bit more like wanting to support the show can enjoy. Kind of get to know us a little more in a way. Plus, we're more relaxed in that. Whereas when we're in the regular show, we're definitely like pretty raw as it is, but this is like more so. We'll talk about something, let's say, if it's a crazy weekend we had, or if it's anything from that to like something new we're trying that we just don't want to get out there too much just yet. it's like it's a more, we call it the raw take because it's more raw than we already are. So
it's pretty fucking raw. So
yeah, $5 a month gives you that. So that's like less, by how many videos we put, it's like less than $1 for the content for each video. That's $5 a month, and of course we have other things below. Everything, of course. I don't think it's down there. Did I put it down there? I don't think I did. No, I did.
You put it, in the description.
I did. It's in the description for that. It's subscribestar.com/ shitlord preachers. So we still have it under that old name. I figured, I don't think they let you change the name. I'd have to make a brand new account, but
we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah,
we'll see how that goes. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to get into that.
That's a good question. Yeah, think about it. We could do that for the road takes. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. What would we do if zombie apocalypse happened?
Oh no, if it's a zombie apocalypse, the shit is on, man. That would be so cool.
That you would want you'd really want to make sure like you're healthy and capable. If it's just, like a full blown, like the system collapses.
Yeah.
That is a little bit better in a way. And now we'll have to get into that.
Yeah. So tell us in the chat, the raw takes, do you want it zombie apocalypse or just the system collapsing? Let us know.
Or just like just a regular system collapse. Yeah. Like system collapse, by that I would mean like the government failed, just disappeared.
Somehow. All governments around the world fail.
I don't know if utilities would probably keep running for a little bit.
Yeah, especially in Nevada with the Hoover Dam. That'd probably be the last power plant to go down.
No. I'm talking like even like internet and electricity.
That'll run for a while until internet providers have if they have to fend for their lives. We'll see. They maybe nobody's there to maintain the generators. Do
you ever watch that movie? It's a Netflix movie it was kind of about the end of the world. Forrest Whitaker is in it.
I do like end of the world movies, so
Forrest Whitaker Netflix movie. How It Ends is what it's called.
How It Ends. No, I haven't seen that.
So it's basically like Forrest Whitaker is the father of this his daughter is going to marry this guy. So he gets to meet her parents. So he goes to meet them. Forrest Whitaker's the dad. Forrest Whitaker is like this like very rugged, tough guy, I guess, I don't know if he was like, I think he was like former military, supposed to be like a veteran. So it's the whole thing basically, in the trailer shows all this, so I'm not spoiling really anything. So visits her, and he's just really hard ass on him, and she likes the guy, so that happens. But then because he's visiting her parents, he's like staying in their city, at like a hotel nearby, and so he's calling her, and she's like on the other side of the country. He's calling her like FaceTime. It's like one morning he wakes up, how'd it go? Oh, I don't think your dad likes me. Kind of that whole getting to know the parents thing, little small talk, and then he's like talking to her on FaceTime, and all of a sudden she's like looking outside. What the heck's going on? And all of a sudden it just video cuts out.
Right.
Then he tries calling her again. She can't answer. And then like the power goes out.
Right.
So when I watched, so basically he goes back to her parents' house, and he talks to the dad, and he goes, did you talk to her? He goes, yeah, I talked to her, and she, he goes, well, you got two choices. Either you stay here with my wife, or you bring your bag and we're going. Like they're gonna drive to go get her.
Right.
Kind of like you're gonna, here's a chance to be a man and prove yourself to me, kind of thing.
Right.
So it's this whole the movie is just following this whole journey of them crossing the country. That they don't know it's. And then what I like about it is you don't really find out what's going on.
Right.
But you kind of figure there's things that hint. You gotta watch it. But it's it's basically the end of the US as far as we know.
Okay. I'll check it out. I mean, it's kind of like the Bird Box thing. Did you see that?
Yeah, but Bird Box, there was like a supernatural element to it.
Yeah. But I mean, we never fully found out what it was. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Chaos breaks out. A bunch of people die. Society collapses.
But then with this one is just people. There was no supernatural element.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, it's the same kind of apocalyptic type of.
You watched Bird Box, and I watched it. Actually, I was surprised. It wasn't like. It didn't really get disturbing or anything. Like
it wasn't very scary. No,
the happening got more disturbing in some spots.
I don't remember the happening. What was the happening?
Mark Wahlberg. The trees started making people kill themselves.
The trees started making people kill themselves. I don't.
So basically, what happened was the entire East Coast trees were giving out a toxin that would make people lose their. They said, "Oh, there's something in your brain that like gives you the drive to stay alive."
Right.
The trees are giving out like a poison that makes that part of your brain shut off. So people would like walk up to like those commercial lawnmowers, like those big ones they use on like big properties, and just lay under them, let it run over them.
Wow.
So it was like Bird Box, but the threat was in the air. It wasn't like an entity flying around.
Right. Okay. Oh, M. Night Shyamalan. Okay, it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I don't think I saw The Happening, so I'll have to check that out. But yeah, Bird Box was. I didn't think it was particularly scary. I didn't particularly see any like jump scenes.
I mean, the one part that I noticed was like, the people that like walked into a fire, or like there was that one. So like Senator Bullock's friend like gets up and gets hit by a dump truck. Yeah. That kind of like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, that was shocking at the moment.
But then it was like, and then there was the part where the guy that could see almost killed that whole house.
Yeah.
That whole thing. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, but overall it wasn't. It wasn't like particularly scary.
The Asian guy in front of the computer screen, that was a bit weird.
That was messed up. I mean, there were a lot of messed up parts in it, the whole thing, but it wasn't particularly scary. And I think that's kind of the point you were making. I can't remember the last movie that I saw that actually was like giving me chills.
Then again, you and I don't at least watch too many scary movies.
I don't really watch a lot of horrors and stuff. I mean, some weird shit like the Mothman prophecies that disturbed me.
The Mothman prophecies?
Yeah, that was disturbing. The Ring was probably the last movie I saw in a cinema, like a horror film in a cinema, and that was fucking creepy in the cinema. That definitely got me.
The Ring?
Yeah, even the US remake, not the original one from Japan, but The Ring, that one bothered me a lot.
Yeah, I've never watched that. See, that's kind of my thing. Is yeah, I don't
made like 3 or 4 now, so it's I don't know.
How many?
The original was Japanese. There's a Japanese film that they remade.
Of course it was. That's the thing. You got The Grudge, you got The Ring.
No, I never saw Phantasm, The Human Question. No, I haven't seen that. That wasn't. Again, I'm not into the horror genre. I was like back in the 80s. I was into that, and a lot of like the early thrillers. The Chuckies, the Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Puppet Master.
Did you ever hear of? I just remembered this because I was like, I was thinking, I had like a memory of like way back, and I was like, wasn't there like there was a horror movie, supposedly a horror movie, with Owen Wilson.
Okay.
Everyone in the chat goes, "Wow!" No, no, It was some weird movie. Basically, like Owen Wilson with a group of people goes to some like haunted house, and it's got like the shittiest CGI. It's the corniest story, and it ends with like some, you know, in the very end, it's basically like it's such a corny movie. It wasn't even scary. It was just kind of like, it was like Final Destination meets Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Okay. Imagine how fucked up combination.
It was basically people dying in really weird and sudden ways that like kind of threw you off. Like, what? You know, like Final Destination, but with the CGI and almost the storyline similar to that of like imagine like a more adult version of like Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Right.
Like, ghosts and the lore and like, you know, why are they ghosts and all this? Like, what?
That sounds fucking weird, man. No, I don't recall any of those types of films.
Anyone in the chat, I don't know if anyone in the chat has heard of this movie. Yeah, The Haunting. It's got Owen Wilson in it. I saw some movie clips of it the other day. Obviously not scary, but it was just weird. Like,
weird
what the heck? Like, this is such a weird movie. Like, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't ring a bell. I again, as I said, since the 80s and the 90s, like Final Destination was probably again one of the last ones that I saw, and I kind of grew out of it. Once cinema gave way to cable, I didn't really watch a lot of horror movies after that.
Yeah, I personally just can't do horror movies.
TW is saying the thing about the Mothman prophecies is apparently it's true. It's something about like the Mothman prophecies is every time there's some massive disaster or something, there's the sightings of these Mothmen that show up, sort of thing. And basically a journalist discovers this legend, and she starts kind of digging into it and stuff. And it just gets very weird. I don't know much about it. Dan Aykroyd actually mentioned it on the Joe Rogan's podcast. Did you see that podcast with the two of them?
I only got through like a lot of the alien stuff. I didn't watch the whole thing.
Well, yeah. But he mentions the Mothman prophecies, and I mean he's into everything. You know, man's Bigfoot, aliens, Bermuda Triangle, like, you know, ghosts.
We need to get one of those guys on the show. Those types of guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bullshitters as well, like all these ghost hunters. You know, a lot of that is just.
I like the parodies of it where they like, I think South Park did it, and like, oh my gosh, like they point at the guy, and like all of a sudden you see his pants getting wet. Oh my gosh, it's a ghost. It's like, dude's freaking pissing his pants.
Oh, the human I did see Candyman. That was very disturbing. Yeah, I'll give you that one. Candyman was pretty crazy.
Huh. No Escape.
I don't know about No Escape. That's so Conk is telling us best Owen Wilson movie is No Escape.
Oh, okay. That's where was it? So he is in, so they obviously don't say where.
Right.
But it's believed to be in Southeast Asia. So him and his family go to Southeast Asia, and because so yeah, he's a business. Owen Wilson's some businessman that's basically gone because of a job, has to go to Southeast Asia to help improve like their water system or something,
right.
water quality. The family quickly learns that they're right in the middle of a political uprising. Armed rebels attack the hotel where they're staying, ordered to kill any foreigners that they encounter. Amid the chaos, he has to find a way to save himself and his loved ones from the violence erupting around them. Pierce Brosnan is like yeah,
I know who Pierce. He played a James Bond. I actually like him as an actor.
So in this movie, he plays like a this was like he was like some sort of like tough guy. He was another foreigner, you know, white guy that's like helps them. And you get to see like these different points where Owen Wilson has to basically make tough decisions to survive.
Right.
You know, throw his kids from a building to another building because they can't go into the streets.
Right.
You know, he has to jump or whatever.
Interesting. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it was a good, because it wasn't, you know, the typical monotone kind of Owen Wilson, just, here's a comedy. It was like, granted, I don't know much about like Owen Wilson's like full like acting ability. He doesn't play many like different, like, it's like
kind of plays himself.
Every Owen Wilson movie is like Owen Wilson being himself.
Yes.
But in a different context. So you get to see the full range of Owen Wilson.
Fair enough.
I mean, the only really out of the ordinary is like, if you watched Zoolander. So he's that.
Right.
He's a little more, he's a little more hippie. But then it's like, then you move over a movie to like, what's one? Then he hops over to like the Starsky and Hutch remake.
Right.
Same guy. A little less of a hippie, more of a cop. It's like, what?
He was in Interstellar, wasn't he?
No, that was Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, Matthew McConaughey was in Interstellar, right? Okay.
Matthew McConaughey kind of has that kind of thing too with his movies. Is very much the same type of characters that he plays.
Yeah.
But
I think you're lagging on my end.
No, you're lagging on my end. This is weird. All right, well, let's wrap it up here, Brook.
All right, we could probably bring it in for a land.
Yeah.
Yeah, technical issues.
Well, we're kind of at our time too. So, anything quick you want to add before we go?
No. I will check out. They were telling me to check out. No Escape.
No Escape. Yep. But
yeah, I'll check that out. And what was the M. Night Shyamalan one?
The Happening.
The Happening, right. Yeah, guys, I'll check that out and maybe do a review on my channel.
All right. Well, of course, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for joining in the chat, of course. Do, of course, tune back in 8:00 tonight Central Time for the official birthday stream. I'll be talking to a lot of different people. And of course, like I said, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to our podcast, which is on iTunes, Google Play, and on all the other podcasting platforms. And of course, again, check out our Subscribe Star if you do want to support the show. We will, of course, be back. Thursday, right? Yeah, we'll be back Thursday.
Or Sunday. Are we doing anything Sunday?
Well, it's Monday now. So
right.
Thursday. So we'll be back Thursday, of course. And then, so thank you for joining us. We will see you guys on Thursday.
Thanks for watching, guys.